All right, welcome everybody to our introduction to digital storytelling. My name is Lynn Wilson. I'm an assistant professor at the Community College of Denver. I teach business and entrepreneurship. And we have with us Lisa Joslyn, who I'll let introduce herself.
I am the digital storytelling coordinator at CCD, and I do this for my job.
And I do this in my classes as well as we do a boot camp here at Open Media Foundation to help nonprofits and social entrepreneurs produce videos that hopefully will get them more attention about their organizations, as well as to produce small pitch videos for crowdfunding websites such as Kickstarter and Indiegogo. So with that being said, let's go there. So what is digital storytelling? What is digital storytelling, Lisa?
Well, I would define it as taking a flat text, which is a writing of some sort, handwritten with scribbles for most of us, some type, but mostly people handwrite them, and they're usually pretty brief in length. 300 is sort of the soft rule. I've taught different faculty and staff and said 300, and some have stopped in the middle of their sentence. 300, must stop. So 300 is not a hard and fast rule. Maybe I don't always get that, make that very clear, but the rule of 300 is just for a time limit. So most of these digital stories are produced within 2 to 3 days. So if you give yourself a task of recording 1,500 words, you're going to have to deal with recording 1,500 words. So usually it starts with about 300 words, and it's written and edited, and that is called the script, and that is what you as the narrator reads. From there, you add pictures, video, and use a video editing software like WeVideo.com, iMovie, Windows Movie Maker.
As we know, digital storytelling isn't that different from many of the things we see every day on, we're bombarded with marketing for anything from TV shows to movies. Digital storytelling kind of makes it more personal. It makes it more intimate. We actually don't always use videos when we do digital storytelling. As a matter of fact, most of the time we use still images to try to entertain people, educate people, inform them, give them kind of a personal take on what they're trying to do with whatever projects they have going on.
Can I add one thing?
Sure.
So usually the mode of writing that it is in is usually narrative. So usually first person, usually narrative.
So why do we use digital stories? Well, mainly to generate interest in your topic, your organization, or your cause, to call people to action, to create brand awareness or recognition, to encourage people to research a particular topic, definitely fundraising, or politicizing a topic or a cause that may not necessarily be talked about in the mass media.
Another thing I would add to this is that we as a culture have become such consumers of video. And so this is a small crack into the world of creating content, creating visual content, creating video content.
Right, we live in the YouTube era right now. And so, YouTube is one of the primary ways that we try to get entertainment or even education. I know even for myself, when I'm trying to fix something at my house, usually I'll go on YouTube. So this is a way to kind of address that for the little guy, right? I mean, that's what YouTube was for. It was kind of a democratization of trying to put out people's own personal messages. There's many blogs, there's many vlogs, and you'd be surprised how many people actually follow people's daily journeys through that medium. And so this is kind of a way to put your voice out there, to put your message out there. So we're going to actually watch a few videos so you can get some examples of what digital storytelling looks like. I think you're going to be surprised it doesn't look like the traditional way that you may be used to, but it still conveys messages. So let's take a look at it. The first one we're going to look at is called Sofas.
And this was made by it was made in a workshop from the Center of Digital Storytelling, which is the organization that trained the Community College of Denver faculty, and it's spreading across our campus, but they are our trainers.
The greatest teachers of our time, King, Gandhi, and living room sofas. Sofas taught me a great deal about living, maybe some of the most important things about living. You know what's great about a sofa is how comfortable they can be. But even more amazing than that, sofas have a way of seating themselves within my memory, forcing me to learn, forcing me to remember. Growing up in my grandma's house on the south side of Chicago, I learned to love sofas. We had an oversized beige colored flowered print sofa, and that's where I would often meet up with my imaginary siblings. I wish I had had brothers and sisters. I wish I had had a chance to meet my parents. My mother passed away before I was 1 year old, and my father, who knows what happened to him. It wouldn't be long before I would come to hate sofas, though. I guess because they can leave you just as quickly as your loved ones can in life. When the fit of a sofa was bad or uncomfortable, it was like a sign to me, an unspoken truth. Maybe I didn't belong there. Maybe it was not home. Maybe I should be moving on. My grandma died when I was 13, and I had to leave our great old comforting sofa behind. I was quickly living in a new place with people I barely knew, sleeping on a sofa I had just met. I was not received well, and it was the sofa that spoke that truth to me the most. A short time later, I took off on my own in search of a real home. The term homeless wasn't the household name it is now, but I was homeless sure enough right then and there. The first time I slept on the street, I didn't really sleep much at all. There were too many questions in my mind. When is it safe to close my eyes? Where do I use the bathroom during the night? Should I leave my shoes on so the rats don't get in them? How in the heck am I going to wash up when the morning comes? And really, finally, who will be there to say good morning to? Yeah, you're homeless when you don't have housing, but it's also when you don't have a place in a circle of people, don't have a place in people's lives, a place in the community, or a place in other people's hearts. That's the real loss, the real cost. That's real homelessness. For the past 9 years, I've worked to eliminate homelessness in our city as an organizer for the Chicago Coalition for the Homeless. I get up every day working alongside those experiencing homelessness to help create the circle and the spaces that are so vital to people's lives. I believe as that happens, I have in some small way helped others along to finding their own sofas. That's how I came to love sofas again. It all had to do with people. While I was homeless, I once slept on an abandoned sofa in a vacant garage. It somehow seemed to want me, to fit me. It seemed so welcoming then, so comforting at that time. It reminded me of my time with my grandma. I still miss her so. Yeah, see, the interesting thing about sofas is how they make you remember what is really important.
So what I find interesting about this video is that he did not give us a spreadsheet of the services that he provides through his job, right? And so it's a different angle of marketing. Rather than saying, these are the services we can provide to you, you should come use them. He told a personal story and hooked us with his narration, right? I love this video for that reason, because he hooked me by saying, I was in a bad situation, and if you're in a bad situation, I can help you. So that's the power of digital storytelling. Rather than just saying, here are the facts, incorporating some of that emotionality. And here is another one of your students.
So this one is by Mike Nixon. He was a student of mine from another semester who did a very creative digital story where he actually used his talent to convey his story. So we'll see what that talent is.
Hi, my name is Michael Nixon, also known as the real Mr. 303. I'm a local rap artist from East Denver, but wanted to take my talents worldwide. Really didn't have the time. Worked for moving company after moving company. For 13 years, I wanted to work for myself, especially when I was working for Mayflower, moving and storage. It was hard work for little pay. Long hours made me miss the family. I realized that I could do better, but didn't know where to start. I also wanted to put my passion for music together with a business, so I came up with the ideal of opening a music studio. The defining moment when I realized I needed to become an entrepreneur, it was about 3 years ago. At the end of December in 2012, Mayflower hadn't called me to go to work for about 2 weeks. I guess it's slow, or whatever you know. I finally gave up on that dead-end job that was taking me nowhere, and enrolled into college to get the information I needed to take this dream to the real thing. So I signed up for Business 110 and met Mr. Wilson, and he pushed me to get my entrepreneurship so I can get them real checks. Now I realize it's not about just rapping, it's about finding a marketing scheme and the funds to promote this dream, which involves a business plan. So I started working on the plan. Now I needed the funding to push this, man. So I started talking to the SBA. They put in that work, they don't play. They told me they can provide me with the loans that I need and help me with my business plan. Yes, indeed. After I get the funding, I need to find a good location for the business and look up my competition and their prices so I can make sure mine is righteous. Now I got the knowledge that I need to put it all together and change my life for the better. If you're ever in my neighborhood, hit up Gruffle Music Entertainment Studio and we'll treat you good. Peace.
So very creative, and certainly, you know, not the traditional delivery, but yeah, he was basically talking about his journey. I mean, you did a great job interpreting that, but you know, that he had started out as an employee of a moving company, and when work got slow, he decided to go back to school because he really wanted to be a musician, be a rapper, and so taking the class helped give him some insight on how he needed to go about doing that, and it wasn't as easy as he thought, basically. But, you know, ultimately it did help him to move forward with pursuing that as his career.
Well, in the recording studio also.
Yes. Yes, advertising his recording studio. So, what are some 5 characteristics you guys would take away from doing your own digital story? If you were to compose one right now, obviously you need to compose a script prior to doing your voiceover, and that's the primary thing you have to do, and then you can get photos that relate to it. There's different ways people, I guess, get inspired by doing their digital stories. They either find the photos that kind of represent the story they want to do, they do that part first, or they'll come up with they'll compose a story and then find some pictures that represent the story.
That's a very, very powerful point. A lot of times people come, I've trained centers, so on our campus there are centers, student service centers basically, and very often they come with, these are the services we provide, and I want you to put that in a video for me. And I say that's boring. and not only is it boring, but it's not effective, right? And the idea is that if I can be as general, as inclusive, as broad as possible, then that's going to do it. Actually, I would argue it's the opposite. Telling the story of one person, telling one person's story is something that we, as people living one person's life, can relate to. So, if you take nothing else from this, that would be my one grain of wisdom.
But you also made a good point about the pace. Pacing is very important when you're doing your voiceovers. And certainly if you have a nice resonant voice, you know, that can grab people too. But everyone has their own voice. Everyone has their own personality. It's not like, oh, I need to go hire, you know, James Earl Jones, which he wouldn't be able to do it anyway. But, you know, that's not the point. The point is you have to put your own personality to it, know who your audience is, but also not go too fast so that people aren't understanding what you're saying. Or if you do go too fast, I love that comment about maybe you should have put subtitles in there as well. So to go into more detail about some of the characteristics of a digital story, let's look at some of the 7 elements that are commonly used or commonly suggested in the Digital Storytelling Cookbook, which is the primary Bible for doing digital stories that you can find. As long as you Google it, I think you can pretty much find it at any university or center that focuses on doing digital storytelling. So the first element would be, what's the point? Specifically, what's the point of view that you're bringing into perspective? Would you like to expand on that anymore?
We've talked a little bit about this already. So usually it's first person point of view. I, me, my.
And then the dramatic question. Is there a question? Is there a question you're trying to answer? Or is there a question you're trying to convey?
So from the examples, I would say the questions were, what is homelessness? And what am I doing with my life? Maybe. Or why should you come to my recording studio?
And then emotional content. Is there a hook? Is there a way to grab the audience? I think we saw that done very well with the first one, with sofas. Initially, you're just kind of like, okay, you know, I'm looking at pictures of sofas. But then as he weaves this story about his journey of homelessness, you start to look, I mean, I'll never look at sofas the same way again. So certainly the emotional content was in on that one.
And if you watch any commercial, I had just daytime TV on yesterday when I got home from work. It is full of emotional content. So I would challenge you when you get home and watch just regular old TV to see if you can pick up on how it's used in our daily life. And we're so numb to it that maybe we don't notice, but it is effective and is widely used in marketing.
And then recognizing your voice as a gift. You have no idea how many times my students get nervous when they're ready to do the voiceover, right? Oh, I hate listening to my voice, you know, I don't even listen to my own voicemail message because I just can't. No, you have to look at your voice as an asset. This is how people will identify with you on these stories, because maybe not, they may see you in the video, but that's how they're going to either be attracted to what you're having to say or just move on. And then obviously you heard in both examples that there was a soundtrack, there was some music playing in the background. Now obviously for a hip hop guy, he's going to have it a little bit more louder, maybe a little overbearing, but you want to have something playing in the background. That usually is a key.
Usually. Sometimes it can be very dramatic if you notice the next time you watch like an action movie. If there's a moment of silence, that can be very powerful too. So think of it, right? So if you're going to not have sound, think of how that's going to be heard by your audience. And is that the kind of message that you want, or would it help to soften it up with a little background music?
I think the key is whether you're using sound or not using sound to be intentional with it. And there's also really good ways that we've used sound effects, like when we did the last boot camp, how we had one student that was really effective in using sound effects, or that other lady when she did the one with the crash, remember? After each issue she was trying to overcome.
There was the sound of a door slamming.
Mm-hmm.
So we didn't ever see the door, but we heard it. She would describe an event in her life and describe how that was an obstacle, and she'd use the sound effect after each one, sort of to put an explanation point behind it.
So even if it isn't necessarily music, you definitely want to be conscious of trying to use sound effects in some way, shape, or form.
CreativeCommons.org provides copyright-free pictures, YouTube videos, music, and what it is a database. So it links to Google Images, it links to YouTube. And I was just working with a student in the lab this morning, and they were saying, no, I already went to Google, it's fine. And I said, no, because the difference is that if you go through this CreativeCommons.org, it's going to only pull copyright-free images, copyright-free content, right? So that's also where you can find the Center for Digital Storytelling's cookbook, is in CreativeCommons.org. CreativeCommons.org. Commons.
Commons, like
common.
Structure, yeah, like Boston Commons, yes. But I will say this, for Creative Commons, they have certain copyrights that are approved for whatever the creator picked. And so some of those, are forever. Basically you can pick between whether you can edit it or modify it, or if they don't want you to edit it at all. So the producers of the content actually can select different traits within their copyright. So you may want to do a little bit of research about that under their website. That'll tell you the different ways people do Creative Commons and copyrights.
If we had it up right now, you would see that, I'll try to pull it from my memory. If you chose an image, the image would be central, and then the description would be on the right. So one of the options is visit page. So you can click visit page, and then you would be able to see exactly who this person is or who the organization is.
I might have it on here somewhere.
Some images are more forthcoming than others. Sure, and one more caveat to this is that it doesn't mean that you don't cite them. You still give credit where credit is due, even if it's copyright free.
Oh, thought that was like loading, but it's another creative
So
word.
you go to find CC licensed work on the right. So these are all of the databases that we can search from. There are music databases, video. So you select it up front and then type in your search query, press enter.
All right, so what do we want to look up?
Sofas.
Sofas. Why not?
Sofas.
Oh, sofas. It's like, what are you trying to say here? I need some
Sofas. Okay,
sofas.
so
Okay.
it's fine. Just choose an image so we can see. Yeah, so visit page, view image, if you right click, you can download. Save, on PCs it says save image as.
Mhm.
So,
Well, there you have it. Sorry, this S looks like a C. It's throwing me off here. Okay, so. There's also a couple of places you can go to get examples of other digital stories. I mean, we just shown 2 today, but these are some of the resources that we like to use to share with people about the different digital stories that are out there. Obviously, CCD, maintained by Lisa. She uploads a lot of our digital stories. We also actually, we just have an exhibit at our area library on the digital wall, showcasing 7 digital stories that were produced by various students and administrators at CCD. Storycenter.org. Is that the original?
yeah, so
institution
that's actually a duplicate, so don't worry about writing both of those down. So storycenter.org and the YouTube link, those are the same. It's Center for Digital Storytelling. And then UMBC so that's just some examples from there.
And then I just threw on there, since this is kind of crowdfunding oriented, there's a really good blog that Indiegogo does every year of their top 12 videos. Now, these are not necessarily digital stories, but for those who are interested in looking at successful crowdfunding pitches, you might want to check them out. And that's under blog.indiegogo.com. This one's for 2012, but I believe they have uploaded one for 2013. So at this point, you're probably wondering, okay, I'm kind of digging this digital story thing. What should I write about? So these are just some things to kind of draw from. Stories about somebody important. Maybe it's to memorialize somebody, or maybe profile someone that isn't really talked about much. Presenting an event. Maybe there's an event coming up that your organization or business is wanting to put on, and you want a different way than just sending out an email blast or a Facebook. Or if you do Facebook, why not Facebook this a digital story? Stories about a place in your life. Maybe you want to convey something personal that you're going through right now that'll help tie it into a organization or business or cause that you have going on right now. Obviously something you're doing at the moment that you need help financially with doing, vis-a-vis a crowdfunding pitch. Other personal stories. Maybe you're trying to promote a book that you're in the process of writing, and you want to convey it in a way to get new people to be interested in your stories. Anything you'd like to add, Lisa?
I don't think so.
All right. So kind of what we saw with the Jean-Claude Van Damme, we saw a little bit of some of these elements. These are some things that are just some more memory, brain joggers for you. But basically, these are some elements that may help for your digital story. Maybe an element of mystery, or maybe an element of empathy.
I think he had all of them.
I think so too. There's no doubt about it.
Definitely. I thought at first he didn't have empathy, but I certainly was hoping that the semi-truck drivers were not going to sneeze.
I did too. I was thinking, man, they better be some good drivers.
And I was proud of him, right? Admiration. Yeah, I think he has them all.
But certainly, you know, like I said, these are just things to try to generate some brainstorming for you, and hope that you'll pursue doing your own digital story.
So I want to comment on that most recent video. All of these elements were presented visually. He did not verbalize any of it. The only verbalization was information based.
And he didn't even say, by the way, I'm working for Volvo, buy one of these cool trucks because I'm a celebrity. He never even said that. So, you know, it was, I thought, something that could fit. And it did go viral. So I'm not surprised if some of you had already seen it before. But that's kind of the effect that you want to try to produce with your digital story. Something that will go viral, right? If you're really believing in what you're trying to convey, you want more than a handful of people to see it. So hopefully when you send it out to your circle of friends, they'll share it with their circle of friends, and it just kind of hopefully spreads. Yes, sir.
And to address the length question, I have 5 minutes of content. How can I break that down to 90 seconds? My recommendation would be to convey some of it visually. So what do I have written down that I think is really important that I can show and represent with a picture or a video?
Or if you want to maintain keeping it long, get a bunch of celebrity endorsements. Because the only successful pitch I've seen on Kickstarter that was way too long was Pono. I don't know if you know about that music
Pono is
player.
pretty much a celebrity.
That thing was way too long, but he could get away with it because it was nothing but very popular musicians back to back to back. But yes, I would make it very, you know, truncated, or you might want to think about doing different campaigns as kind of a build-up, right? So you do this one that's, so, you know, break it into bits, maybe 2 different videos, one that's just kind of a warm-up one, like, hey, I'm about to do a crowdfunding pitch, and send that out to your audience.
Sort of as a trailer.
As a trailer. And then do one, the real deal one. And then you don't have to worry about making such a long one. Any more questions? Which actually takes us to the next point, is how are you going to share your story? Well, in our social media age, I think you guys already know the obvious answer for that, you know, the Facebook, the Twitter, and all that. So I was wanting to come up with a list of maybe some non-traditional ways, or at least some ways that still require physical people to be involved, and obviously your website, your blogs. But how about an event? How about creating an event where people can come physically to see your story, or maybe a whole consortium of different stories? Kind of having your own digital story film festival related, and maybe they all have the same topic related to them. Also, putting them in a public venue, just as we're doing right now. We have at the Auraria Library this huge digital wall, and they needed content for it. And guess what? We just happen to have a bunch of digital stories that we wanted to get out to the public. So that was a way we feel, you know, is a new method to try to get it out there. Even smaller kiosks, you know, there's places that have, you know, small flat screen TVs posting things all the time. Why not? Why not put up digital stories, especially if it maybe relates to their place of business or their center? And obviously conferences. I think that's one that we just profiled, our hands-on tech when we did our last digital story show, The Perfect Pitch, one of the winner of the show actually was able to show their video at one of the conferences that they do pertaining to legal defense. So it kind of helped that they won, but then as word of mouth got around, they were like, hey, do you think you can come to our conference and present it? So you just never know how it will proliferate. And then you can try using it as a commercial. See if there's radio or TV stations that will allow you to do it as kind of a public service announcement, especially if it's a nonprofit. And someone already asked that question, so Creative Commons is the place to go. We showed you the website for that. And that is it, my friends, for our introduction to digital storytelling.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much for coming.